Welcome back to the Common Sense Show. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on two forces that every small business owner is feeling right now. First, the money squeeze. Why are small businesses still struggling to get capital, even when banks claim that they're loosening? Then, we're talking about the AI surge. 70% of small businesses are already using it, but is it lifeline? Is it a lifeline or is it just hype? What's new with AI to roll onto your business? And in our fantastic failure segment today, I'm talking about Juicero. That's right, Juicero, the $700 Wi-Fi juicer that turned into Silicon Valley's punchline. So let's dive in and get started. All right, we're kicking today's show off with an issue that every small business owner feels, but very few can solve. In fact, very small percentage of businesses get the funding that they need. You realize that the vast majority of small businesses in the US are like single person firms with one individual. Maybe they have one or two employees. The reality is that so many businesses get to a certain point, they self-fund, and then they hit a brick wall because they can't go further without more funding and investment from either a financial institution or a group of investors, an angel, whatever the case is. I actually did a podcast before where I interviewed an angel investing expert. If you yourself are looking to invest in businesses, if you're interested in that conversation, then I will put the link to that conversation in the description for the replay crew. But getting back, what's going on now is that on paper, you have community banks that are saying that the future looks bright. But in practice, what's happening is small business owners are still getting denied, choked by red tape, and it's really hard to get loans. Now, there's a few reasons why small business owners, especially when it's hard, have a hard time getting loans. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of small businesses out there don't have good, clean financials. That's the first thing. The second thing is that a lot of small businesses out there don't have the business plan to go with the finances and the financing and the financials, the good, clean financials. Third thing is that they may not have the credit available to be able to take on a business debt, because often, especially if you're a sole proprietor or LLC, you have to personally guarantee most of the loan programs that you actually are applying for. So there's that as well. And then finally, some lenders consider it risky to lend to super early startups. So there's this like precarious place that all small business owners find themselves in. So the question is, what can we do about it? What can we do about it? Well, the purpose of this show is to bring common sense to the business world. So like, I can just tell you what I've done in the past to actually help raise revenue before I talk more about maybe in a broader, larger landscape scheme, what can be done to kind of alleviate some of these issues. So the first thing that I can tell you that I did to raise capital is to do pre-sales. So I've pre-sold services and products prior to launching a business to get it started. And that was one of the ways that I was able to actually raise capital. Generally speaking, in order to do that, you have to be selling to someone who's already familiar with what you do, or someone who wants to invest in you, but that requires you to have already kind of proved your product or your service already. So you don't really have to prove it as much if you're in an established industry that has a level of sophistication that people just already understand, like um, being an electrician, starting a HVAC company, being a plumber, starting a life insurance agent, an insurance agency, whatever the case is. There are some industries that are so well established that their value to the marketplace does not have to be reestablished, right? What has to be established is the fact that you have a product that is worthy of delivery and you will come through on what you say. And therefore you can pre-sell this to somebody who might want what you have, what you have available to you. So pre-selling is one way to do it. A lot of the big boys do it. So like, for instance, in fitness and the health and fitness industry, as you know, I spent 20 years in the industry. They have whole launch strategies at like Orange Theory, if you're familiar with Orange Theory Fitness, where they have hundreds of locations across the US. And what they do is they launch these pre-sale programs. So they'll come into your town, and not just Orange Theory, but there's a lot of franchise systems. When they're setting up a business in an area to target new customers, they will create a whole pre-sale plan to launch the business as profitable as possible. And it's a good way to return significant money on your initial investment of starting the business. Obviously, if you've started with equipment, if you started with some kind of salary or compliance, permitting, licensing that are needed, that stuff can add up. Sometimes you have to pay for certain insurance policies before you start, depending on what industry you're in. All these fees, professional license fees and professional services that you might pay for to get started, come at a cost. And so pre-selling helps defray some of that cost that you've spent trying to get your business set up. So that's kind of like the low-hanging, ain't going to cost me much money way to try to get some revenue into your business without going the financial institution route at the beginning. There's other considerations, though, that we're addressing when it comes to this issue of access to capital for small businesses. And one of them is just regulatory complexity. There are so many federal regulations that are a pain point when it comes to diverting owners' resources away from growth. And I want to share some statistics with you that come from the Small Business Economic Bulletin from the second quarter of 2025. So this quarter just finished, and it outlines some data as it relates to lending and small business economics. So the first one is that the regulatory outlook shows that community bankers are the most optimistic that they've been since 2019 about lighter regulations. So a lot of community banks are seeing kind of what the SBA is doing, the Small Business Administration is doing, and they kind of like what they see. So they're taking action and they feel positive about it. But it says small business owners still feel federal rules are the biggest burden. Now, SBA is not a lending institution. So what ends up happening is that the SBA gives guidance, especially since the federal government backs a lot of SBA lending programs, to the community banks, or banks generally speaking, who are going to be SBA lender, because the SBA is backing them, about how the minimum requirements of what they need to do to offer this loan to small business owners. Now, that's only one part of it, because here comes the other bank. The bank that wants to become an SBA lender has the guidelines from the SBA. And that bank that wants to become an SBA lender may have their own internal processes to ensure that all the financial products that they offer to the consumers are ones that fit into their own regulation framework, so that they don't lose money or lose their shirt as well. So it's often when these two, when this partnership between the SBA and the private lending institutions are intertwined, you get significant changes, right? So like the SBA may have a lot looser rules than the community bank, right? And oftentimes community banks are a lot less well funded than a larger banking system like Bank of America, and therefore they have way more stringent guidelines on how they're going to loan SBA money um, over the guidelines that the SBA has. So there's that. So there's a gap between how community bankers feel about lending and how small business owners feel about lending, um, and the burden thereof. Now, in that same economic bulletin, it talked about how many Americans who are self-employed are choosing, many more Americans are choosing self-employment as their primary occupation as opposed to pre 2007. I wonder if this has anything to do with like the whole return to office, COVID. Everyone during COVID had a chance to kind of take time out and to try to figure out, is what I'm doing what I really want to be doing? Is it the best thing for me? I mean, you know how it was. You remember that, right? Like you were sitting at home. You could be at home with your family all day, or if you don't have a family, by yourself. And you had the opportunity. Yeah, you were working, but to get up and make some coffee, some tea, to turn on Netflix, sneak a quick nap. So quality of life became very important to a lot of people during COVID. Not that quality of life isn't important, but oftentimes when you're in the rat race, the grind, we don't feel quality of life as much as we do when we slow down and we have an opportunity to sense what it's like to be able to attain it. I think that the pandemic in some ways made people feel like they enjoyed or they want to pursue obtaining the quality of life for the brief period they had it when they weren't working in office all the time. Now, I'm not talking about the stresses of COVID, of course, which there were for many people. I'm talking about the sheer attractiveness of being able to enjoy the grind of work, not having to sit in traffic, realizing that you can still get your work done if your day is spent pursuing things that are specifically tied into work and things that are not, right? So anyways, it looks like we've hit our peak that we hit before 2007. There's been a lot of business formations as well. So many new business applications, especially across the services sector. Manufacturing startups have cooled off a little bit. And as of right now, it seems like small firms are about 63% of new private sector jobs. But last year, they were less than large firms. So many more people are going to work for small businesses. I actually like that. Small businesses need good people to work for them. I can't tell you how many people have I've spoken to business owners who are looking to improve their workforce, right? And like as a small business owner, sometimes all you need is that one or two people who are all stars, and it changes the trajectory of your whole business. Now, here's the thing: sole proprietors. These are people who are individual owners of businesses that are not incorporated. Let's talk about their income. The income is going up. So the income for sole proprietors dipped in 2020, so about 5 years ago, and we all know what happened during 2020. It's of course that the sole proprietor's income dipped for good reason, but now it's starting to go back up. But here's an interesting trend from the economic bulletin. It's that small business loans have flattened since 2021, and banks are tightening their standards because of this. Demand is going down. So, but at the same time that demand is weakening for these loans, small business owners are getting behind on their bills now more than they have as well. So why aren't, it seems, I guess on paper, that business owners are not pursuing these opportunities for institutional financing, right? But the reality is that it might just have to do with the fact that the standards and then not being able to qualify. So we'll take a look at this. We'll keep a look at that. Here's a question for you. Have you recently applied for financing? Have you been able to get it? Specifically, I want to know about line of credit. Have you been able to get a line of credit? Or have you been able to get a term loan for your business? If so, what's your interest rate? Where did you go? Did you like the experience? Let us know in the chat, and then I'll make sure that I answer you as well. So to me, it's an interesting thing to go from not having any finances to, or not like applying for loans and needing to though, because your bills are due, like all of our bills are due. And I don't know. I don't know how small business is going to do it. It's going to have to find creative financing. Oftentimes money in business is much more expensive than it is for people who are personal. So anyways, so let's move on to our next segment. We're going to talk about AI adoption. Is it a game changer? Okay, so now while money problems have you fighting for survival, another wave is crashing over business. It's AI. It's not just Silicon Valley anymore, though. It's 7 out of 10 small business owners are already using AI. 70%, yes, 70%. That's up 51% from just 2 years ago. In fact, 80% of small business owners say that AI enhances rather than replaces their workforce. And 40% expect new jobs in 2025. Here's the thing. I think that this is going to be for the next, 10 to 15 years. I think that, frankly, this is where AI is going to stay for quite a bit of time. It's going to stay in the labor force augmentation zone. And I don't think that AI it's going to replace some jobs for sure. And there have been some estimates from Elon Musk and others about how many jobs AI will take. But in my opinion, I think that labor force enhancement is going to be the name of the game. Now, it may cost jobs in the sense that, I guess it's the same metric, that if one person can do the work of 3 people, you don't need the other 2. You just need the one to do the work of the 3 using AI, so you can let them go. So I think in that way, I don't think like, okay, the person who's using AI will get replaced by AI. I think that the person using AI and who knows how to use AI best, that person will replace the team and allow the team to be able to function. And we're going to get to a video in a minute, that an interview that Sam Altman did from OpenAI ChatGPT about how right now ChatGPT 5 is being leveraged and being used by companies across the US. So obviously some of the benefits of using ChatGPT are efficiency, better decision making, and new capabilities. But the challenges that small business owners are going to face are that 42% lack the resources or expertise to use the tools and to be able to protect privacy and technical skill gaps. So there are some learning gaps that you might have when it comes to AI. So how can you, before we get to the interview with Sam Altman, as we talk about ChatGPT, I want to talk first about how it is that you can enhance your understanding and abilities with AI in your small business. Well, the first thing, in my opinion, that you could do is that you can get certified in AI. Get a certification. Understand prompting and how prompting works. Because with AI, I could have ChatGPT, and my buddy Johnny over here can have ChatGPT, and our outputs are drastically different. And the reason why our outputs are different are because of the prompts that I use. You know what prompts are. When you go to ChatGPT, the little box at the bottom where you have to talk, ask ChatGPT something or say what you want, or on Gemini, that's called a prompt. And the quality of your prompts are going to give you a better quality of, frankly, service. So, like, I think that it's going to be important for small business owners, for all of us, to learn prompting and better prompting and become better at prompting. How do you get better at prompting? By practicing, right? By understanding what you want the outcome to be, and then understanding how to ask it. Now, so many people write prompts, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, out of context, because they are talking to ChatGPT like it's frankly a person, and they use other language, like mannered language in there, that sometimes distracts from what you want the prompt to be. So nice, I think, understanding the outcome that you want from the result, from what you want ChatGPT to do, reverse engineer that into a question or a statement or a command, I should say, that you give the ChatGPT or whatever AI system you use, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever. Understand that your prompt is going to directly be measurable to your output, which you get. All right, let's take a look at the interview, quick interview, a couple minutes, that Sam Altman did. I think it was on the Fox Business News show. I hope you can see it. All right, here we go.
OpenAI unveiling its highly anticipated GPT-5, calling it the smartest, fastest, and most advanced AI model to date. The model, powering new capabilities in writing, coding, healthcare. All ChatGPT users have access, including non-paying users if you're using it for free. OpenAI rocketing into the mainstream since its launch back in 2022. Now expectations have it hitting 700.
On a second note, I can't believe it's been 3 years since ChatGPT launched. I remember the day when it launched and nobody could get on because it was backed up, and there was like 140 million people on their servers crashing it out every single day.
100 million weekly active users this week. Joining me now is the man behind it all, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman joins me right now. Sam, great to have you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
And you say GPT-5 is like having a team of PhD level experts on demand. Tell us about that. How does this deeper reasoning change what users and businesses can do with AI?
Yeah. So this is, we're very proud of this model. It's a really big step forward from our previous models. The level of intelligence, the depth in all the areas, from coding to healthcare to the ability for enterprises to build agents, and much, much more. It's a pretty significant step forward. So people are able to ask very complicated questions, have GPT-5 do complicated things for them, write an entire piece of software, get information about a complicated health situation, and a lot more.
Diabetes.
All right, let me of course, no free advertising on the Common Sense Show, so let me turn off the sound. Skip this thing.
AI. Tell us what you do on a regular basis in terms of using AI.
It has become, for me, the default way I start with something. If I have a question, it's the first place I go to ask. If I want to, with GPT-5, if I have like an idea that I want to see sketched out, the fact that it can now.
Can I just make an observation that this guy's head looks like a pineapple? I don't know what made me think about that, but it's just an interesting observation.
Just like write this piece of software and show me that right away. It's like, it feels quite magical, even though I'm pretty used to AI. I use it to like help analyze like a big piece of like a ton of information or research a complicated topic. So those are some of the ways.
I know that OpenAI released 2 new AI models designed to be lower cost options for developers and researchers and companies. Talk about that. What's the strategic thinking behind moving into open weight space? What does it mean for the broader landscape for AI?
Yeah, so we had 2 big releases this week. We did open weight models, models that you can run, that we open source the key information for, and you can run locally on your own computer or a GPU or even a phone at a smaller, kind of less capable model. And then we also released in our API 3 versions of GPT-5, like a kind of a big, medium, and a small one at different price points. But we worked really hard with both of these models to have both of these families of models, an extremely low cost relative to the performance. We've been doing great at consumer for a while, but now that we are really kind of becoming a model that's so used by enterprise, the ability to bring the cost down a lot and the reliability, robustness, the coding capability in particular up a lot is very important to us. So the models at each of these capability points, I think are like by far the best deal in the whole market now.
I love the idea of the impact of on cost, because of course that's what enterprise is looking for, a situation where they can actually cut costs. And I was speaking with the CEO of one telecom company recently, and he
Yes, as business owners, we should always be looking for where we can make the business more efficient and cut costs at the same time, deliver at a higher level for our businesses. Just a few points of recommendation. Remember that ChatGPT writes perfunctorily, usually, very mechanically, and in many cases accurately, but without a soul or without like a personality. Never use ChatGPT to reach out to people on your behalf without editing the emails first and making it feel like it's coming from you. I think it's really important for you to take control of the human element, because I can always tell. You can look at the font size of the email. There's 2 different fonts between the hi Micah and then the paragraph, or whatever the case is. I see the M dashes, the emojis. Like, those things are typically always giveaways that something was written by ChatGPT and the person didn't actually take time to think about what they wrote before they sent it. So just be careful about that part. That's all I'm saying.
Told me that AI has enabled his engineers at his telecom company to become 28% more productive. So Sam, what is your expectation in terms of that? Cutting costs for enterprise, making people more productive, obviously saying, look, we don't need that many people. How will this shake out in terms of jobs? Where will new jobs be created? What are the new roles? And how significant will it be in terms of
I haven't heard this yet.
Cutting employees and getting more productive as a result of this technology?
We want to get.
Yeah, look, I think the productivity gains we're seeing already before GPT-5 were big. And what we're hearing people report just in the first day of having GPT-5 are huge. So maybe the area where we see this most dramatically is software engineering. And you hear people say they're twice as productive, 5 times as productive, these huge, huge numbers. It's totally changing what it means to be a software engineer. In that category, though, I think we're just seeing that the world wants way more software created. And so people will be expected to do much more. They'll be able to do much more, but the world will just get a lot more software. There will be other categories of jobs where the world will just say, like, hey, with this incredible efficiency gain, we just don't need as many people. And then there will be totally new things that just they weren't even possible to think about before AI. And you'll see this, these booms and these brand new kinds of jobs categories. And those are the hardest to imagine, I think.
And of course, that's the reason that ChatGPT's use.
So I take that to mean that, yeah, there will be some displacement of jobs in like reasonably like the computer sector, computer software, maybe cybersecurity, whatever the case is. But it's still unknown exactly what the results of displacement are or will be with AI at this time. I think it's a little too early. There's some early indicators, but I mean, we'll see.
in workplaces is surging across industries, right? I mean, you've got so many industries now incorporating it in their business plans and ensuring that employees know how to use it and are using it regularly. What's your sense of how much companies are spending on this technology? What the Wall Street Journal reported a couple of months ago, or a couple of weeks ago, rather, that big tech is going to spend $400 billion in an AI spending spree. And they were really talking about Alphabet, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta spending. But are you seeing spending broadly across business, or is it still concentrated in those tech companies, Sam?
So that number you talked about, I think, is just what the tech companies are spending on the AI infrastructure, the servers, the computer chips, to be able to create these products. In terms of businesses actually spending on the technology, I didn't think this a couple of years ago. The numbers were so much smaller and we were still very much in the consumer phase. I think a company like OpenAI will be able to build a $100 billion business line just selling products to other businesses. The efficiency gains, the value delivered is so worth it that I think we can now build a huge business here, and we're excited to get going on that.
Because companies are going to...
There will definitely be efficiency gains. Just the value of all the labor that's displaced that can make a single person, a whole team right now, like that, the value of exponential growth, like in terms of just sheer productivity, in my opinion, is like the staple of the key feature to. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, $100 billion is what he said. I think it's way higher than that. That seems like it's just way too low for how many people's labor are being replaced and the value to business owners that is, and their savings. I think that's a little light.
Spend on the actual open AI content, not just on the infrastructure that you just referred to.
Yeah,
that infrastructure being chips and servers and data centers.
The services that we built on top of that, I think, are now just generating so much economic value.
That's incredible.
We hear from companies like Amgen, who was an early tester of GPT-5, just saying that this is really a step change for the value it can deliver and how it helps them do that. Financial services companies really do, have been early adopters that are now pushing even further. But the amount of automation that's possible, the amount of completely new products that someone can just build.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone. But getting in.
No free advertising, like I told you. Let me skip this.
Significant.
So, Sam, what are those products that you are envisioning that you can layer on top of this to create this business that you're talking about? Give us a sense of some of those products that you're referring to.
He's competing with Elon Musk.
I would love to be able to build sort of a general purpose service for a business where a worker can say, okay, here are the 5 tasks I do most often on my computer, and show them to the AI and sort of teach the AI, like, here's what I need help with. Here's the part I'd like you to automate. And the AI can learn for that worker the parts of the task that they need help with that are repetitive that they can automate, and then just learn to do those and say, hey, I think this is what I should probably do here. Click OK to confirm. I can go make it happen. And if we can do that in a general purpose way, from jobs that are as diverse as like data entry to computer programming to scientific experiments, then I think we can give people huge additional leverage to work at a higher level.
Now, you just mentioned a couple of industries. You mentioned healthcare, you mentioned financial services. So, Sam, tell us what specifically can get done in healthcare companies and in financial services with the use of this latest GPT-5.
Yeah.
It strikes me that this lady has a microphone and she still kind of screams when she talks a little bit. But I think healthcare may be like the biggest gainer, in terms of like their biggest segment. Like, who's going to? He said financial services, obviously computers, but I can see healthcare being like number 2 or number 1 in like 5 years.
I'll pick healthcare as an example because that's an area that's very important to us. It's a huge amount of the use of ChatGPT, and so we pushed
Well, there you go. I haven't seen this, and I feel like it was obvious, but yeah, makes perfect sense, right?
it very hard with GPT-5 to improve it at healthcare. If you ask GPT-5 healthcare questions, you will notice a huge increase in its capability from GPT-4. And we've heard from many healthcare companies that are like, I can now build a completely different product than I could before, maybe to help my physicians make a complicated diagnosis by looking at information and knowing things that they might have otherwise, a disease that might be so rare, so presented in such an unusual way. So you can imagine like a physician assistant that a company could build with GPT-5 that would really potentially save a lot of lives.
And what about financial services, Sam?
Financial services have, as I mentioned, I think that was the first category where we had like significant enterprise adoption. And we have seen this from, financial advisors that want to make better recommendations to their clients about asset allocation and like the ability to look at and really understand the customer's needs. We've seen this from people that do research on financial assets in totally different ways, using the ability of now GPT-5 and earlier GPT-4 to go integrate a ton of information and really help study a company. Certainly to just build software faster, do things like customer support faster is something that financial services companies have been early adopters of.
That's incredible. Now, I know that lots of rivals of yours are trying to escalate this talent war. Everybody's offering massive pay packages to poach top AI researchers, Sam. Where do you find AI researchers and the employees that you need to put in these jobs to actually execute?
A lot of the best success we've had is finding really smart people from other fields and training them over years to become great AI researchers.
I can see that.
So we've had just phenomenal success finding the smartest people we can and then having them come to our company and learn how to be great AI researchers. And I expect we'll keep doing that.
And are you offering bonuses to those people of up to $1.5 million to keep staff on board?
We're definitely, we want to pay our people super well, and we want to react to what's happening in the market. We will not be able to sort of match the levels of some companies, like say what Meta's doing, but we will continue to try to significantly increase our compensation as our company does better and better.
So what's the salary of an...
You all should see, if you haven't already seen, the salaries of like prompt engineers. And these are people who just help companies train their AI to have more fruitful outputs and train their LLM, the large language models, the LLMs, hard to say real fast, on company information. And some of these salaries are crazy, like $600,000-$700,000 to be an AI prompt engineer for a company. I mean, yeah.
Average AI engineer.
Well, they're mostly paid in stock, and our stock has been doing really well.
Yeah.
So I don't know quite how to answer that, but yeah, the great majority of the compensation we give to an AI researcher is in stock.
And are you now talking to employees about a stock sale that actually could have some employees cash out? I mean, the valuation being talked about, is $500 billion for OpenAI?
We do a liquidity event every year. We're a private company, and so we have to have some way to get our employees the liquidity on their stock before we go public, if we ever do. So yeah, we do one every year.
They're going public.
And the liquidity event, tell me about the liquidity event. I mean, are you hoping that you could get some employees to take that liquidity event, cash out at a $500 billion valuation?
No.
I can't comment on the specific valuation, but yeah, like people are able to sell a portion of their stock.
He ain't gonna talk about.
This is like a very standard thing for
what he's gonna
companies of our stage, and we've been doing it.
Doesn't happen.
I don't know, last 3 or 4 years.
Financially, actually get there. It's irresponsible.
I mean, Sam, isn't that incredible? Do you pinch yourself every day? I mean, look at this company you founded. that is now being valued at $500 billion. How do you feel about
Guys,
that, Sam?
I don't know what.
When I was a kid, I dreamed of getting to
Pineapple
work on
head. I
AI.
told you, he has like a
I was
pineapple
a
head.
sci-fi nerd. I thought,
Look
yeah,
at
it was
his
the
head.
coolest thing. I
You
grew
won't
up in
see
like a
anything but a
suburb of St.
pineapple
Louis.
moving forward.
Felt like a very unlikely
Sam,
thing that was ever going to happen to me. So yeah, I can't believe that this is actually what I get to do every day. And it is the coolest thing I can get into work on. I feel super grateful.
That
Not
is
very
incredible.
mature,
I'm
like,
sure you are
pineapple.
super grateful.
Anyways, that's what he had to say about OpenAI and business, kind of where he sees it, OpenAI going, and what is to come in the future. I think that small business owners need to get better at AI, understand it, understand what you're missing, understand how to use it, understand how to leverage it in your company to make your company better, and then understand how AI and what roles they can enhance, multiply, and make you more money. All right. So before we wrap up today's show, I want to revisit the segment that I told you that I'm adding to my shows directly. Before, I used to have a segment called Fantastic Failures, which Fantastic Failures was about showcasing a company, a product, a service, whatever the case is, that failed previously. Because, part of being a good business owner is understanding from the lessons of the past that may have shattered your confidence, sent you out to the hills running, and made you think, I never want to do business again. This segment is called Fantastic Failures, and I'll let you know what the fantastic failure is after the prompt. Okay, so we are going back to a ridiculous product. Ridiculous. Probably one of the biggest flops in all of Silicon Valley history. Yes, it's the $700 Wi-Fi juicer that you didn't need. And trust me, it was not worth it. So let's talk about it. The company that we're talking about is Juicero. Do you remember Juicero? Here's what Juicero used to look like. Let me just pull that up. This is what Juicero used to look like right here. Wi-Fi juicer. Right? Put your cup in there. It did everything for you, right? All on your Wi-Fi. Okay, that's the Juicero juicer. It cost $700. They raised $120 million, Juicero, to build this Wi-Fi enabled juicer that required these little proprietary packs, right? These little proprietary juicing packs. So they launch it. They launched their $700 Wi-Fi juicer, which was later cut to $499, and they charge $5 to $7 for these packs that could be squeezed by hand, right? So, like, think about this: you have a juicer. The juice is pretty much already done for you. You slide the packet into the machine. You go to your Wi-Fi. You diddle it or whatever the case is to get the juice to come out, and they were selling that, right? So, and then a Bloomberg article happened. Okay. And the Bloomberg article went viral. Okay. Here's what it looks like. Let me show you the Bloomberg article. This is the Bloomberg article. Silicon Valley's $400 juicer may be feeling the squeeze. So the two biggest investors were surprised to learn that you could use the juicer by hand without squeezing the package. So think about this. Here's my Wi-Fi juicer. Call it right here. Okay, Wi-Fi juicer. I put my cup in there. I said, send the signal from my phone that I want the juice to squeeze into the cup. Okay. Here's the problem. This same mechanism, by taking off the top and squeezing it into the cup, could be done by your phone. I mean, your hand. And it was faster to do it by your hand. And you didn't need a $700 juicer to be able to do it. So they launched this product into the marketplace that their investors didn't even realize could be juiced by hand, which is a problem when you're raising over $100 million in cash that your investors don't know. But we'll save that issue for like another time. And it just kind of dawned on them that, oh yeah, this could be squeezed by hand. It's like, how would I describe this? How can I analogize this? What metaphor can I use for this absurdity? Well, first of all, let's say this. Let's say that you have a Wi-Fi enabled toothbrush. You can brush your teeth with the Wi-Fi enabled toothbrush. You can turn it on before you get in there. It self applies toothpaste to the toothbrush. You just walk in there and then you go out to brush. Or you can take the toothbrush, take the toothpaste tube, squeeze a little toothpaste and get right to work, right? It would seem untenable and stupid, frankly, to launch a product into the marketplace where the technology behind getting it to the consumer was no greater of a task than a person doing it by themselves. To me, that's a lack of R&D, that's a lack of market research, and it just goes to prove that if you have a great pitch deck and you're great and you're eloquent, you can get your product or your company funded. The reality is that a Wi-Fi toothpaste dispenser that goes on that applies toothpaste to a toothbrush is not a real problem. It's an imagined one. And that's the problem with this product, right? Juicero. They were solving a problem that wasn't really a problem. Because often people who juice, and I just started, already have their juicers that like need to be fed by hand, right? And they're perfectly fine. I mean, I'm perfectly fine. 45 minutes. It takes me 45 minutes from the moment I start with the whole fruit or vegetables to squeeze it, glass it, clean up everything, and put it back. Okay. However, if I don't want to juice one day, I will simply just buy bottles of pre-juiced juice for my refrigerator. It's a problem that doesn't exist. Okay. Another thing. Not only do we have a problem that doesn't exist, there is no customer alignment around pricing for a product like Juicero. How are you going to even decide a pricing strategy for this Wi-Fi juicer that does not that does the same thing as squeezing the juice in the glass by hand? It's kind of ridiculous, right? The other lesson that we learned from this fantastic failure of this product is that we need to test our products rigorously before we rigorously. There you go. Did I say rigorously? Rigorously.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
Rigorously before we launch into the marketplace, right? Like, you don't just like attach your router to a juicer and then just start selling it on the marketplace for $700, which is kind of like, and it feels like they did with this juicing thing. But if you're an investor, you also don't like invest $120 million into a company until you actually know what they do. So I need rich friends like that who can angel wire me $120 million. So it's all well and good, your product or your service, until somebody writes a Bloomberg article like, do we really need a $400 juicer? And they show you how easy it is to do half the stuff on your own, right? I mean, so this company is a fantastic failure, in my opinion. And there are reasons why they are no longer around. So let me give them the audience laugh because they are a fantastic failure. Yes, Juicero is no longer around because they are on the ash heap of history when it comes to running companies. Market fit, market analytics, understanding your customer, understanding your pricing strategy, and don't create an issue in the marketplace that doesn't exist. In fact, look for problems to solve that are already there, and you can make something that already exists better. That's kind of the nature. Why reinvent the wheel, right? Just make the wheel better. If you see a wheel that's square, say to yourself, would this wheel be better round? Because there's no friction on any of the sides. That is ingenuity, right? That is creativeness. That is addressing a problem in the marketplace. All right. Well, I appreciate you watching the Common Sense Show today. I will have another live show on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, just to kind of set the stage, we're talking about how small businesses can survive the green reporting wave. So there was supposed to be this legislation for small businesses that had climate disclosures. Yeah, I know. And look, maybe you're about not harming. Maybe you're about like ensuring. Look, we should all be protecting the environment we live here. That's important, 100%. But climate disclosure rules were getting ridiculous. So there are some, climate related green reporting things that have come up that need to be addressed by small businesses. Question is, are you ready for that? We'll talk about that on Wednesday. The second thing we're going to talk about is the skills gap. Does your current team right now have the skills that it needs to be able to address the workflow that we're seeing right now? And then finally, the fantastic failure on Wednesday, we're talking about WeWork. Remember WeWork? No? Well, that's because they don't exist anymore. But we'll go over that on WeWork. On Wednesday. All right. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Don't forget that this podcast is about bringing common sense to the business world. I'm Micah, and I'm out of here. Peace.